Hello, hello, hello. This is Jamaica 411. Today is July 3, 2024, and it is after 12 p.m. It is raining outside. We got a little breeze blow. Miss Beryl, I hear, is threatening to knock at our doors, but I hear Miss Beryl is turning away. I suppose you figure we have enough problems. What with Mr. Mark Oling and his British citizenship, and the people complaining about Andrew, and all the other things that are happening here that people complain about. Some people are happy, some people complaining, and it's generally along political lines. So Miss Beryl can't be bothered with our confusion, and I suppose she's going south to see if she can find more persons who are amenable to her activities. Well, I hope she'll never find it. Let's hope she keeps turning around in the Caribbean Sea until she faces out and never make landfall. Of course, you know that's wishful thinking. But anyway, yes, I am here again after 2 weeks pause. I decided to go ahead nonetheless and do this video despite the fact that I'm preparing for the appeal against the ruling of the judge in the Dayton Campbell defamation case. So, I'm going to welcome everyone who is here with me for the first time. Welcome, welcome. Don't be a stranger. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. And remember, to subscribe on YouTube is free. There's no charge. The subscription button is just for you to say this is a video or this channel is what you prefer, so they keep showing you any videos that is uploaded from that channel. So it's free. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you're here with me, as always, my regular viewers, listeners, my fans, and so on, from the Jamaica, I can never remember Natalie's channel, Jamaica Politics University is called now. So it's Jamaica Politics University with Natalie. Thank you and welcome for you, and I'm happy for your support as usual. If you're from the Steady Show, welcome. And I know there are others. You're from Karen Cross. Thank you so much for coming and listening to me. You might be scrolling by and come up on the channel. Please listen, because what I'm doing for you today is something that I've been thinking of doing for maybe a few weeks now, when I saw and really looked at the Prime Minister's previous declarations. I noticed something about them, and I decided, I needed to bring it to your attention for what it is worth. But I'm not only going to look at the Prime Minister's statutory declaration, I'm also going to be looking at Mark Goling's statutory declaration. And then we can make a comparison to see if we can figure out why it is that Mark Goling's statutory declaration is being certified, and what could be possibly the cause of why Andrew Holness's statutory declaration is ever delayed. All right, so let me begin. So the statutory declaration is required to be gazetted, meaning that it is public information, just a summary though, of the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition. We have for Andrew Holness 3 years from 2018, 2019, and 2020. Now, when the election is called, if according to the rules, I read the rules for you shortly. So his declaration is valid. It is up to date up to 2020. But there are certain 3 years from 2021, 22, 23. We have not seen the declarations. It has not been gazetted, which means they have not been certified by the Integrity Commission. And they are not allowed to say why. Only the Prime Minister can come out and tell us why. For Mark Golding, we have seen his statutory declaration. He became leader of the opposition in November 2020. So he declared his. No, this one you're looking at 2020 would be Dr. Peter Phillips. So his first declaration would have been in 2021 and 2022. So we're going to move now and we're going to look at some of the elements of a statutory declaration. You're going to see income. And income is money received, especially on a regular basis for work or through investments. So that's what an income is. And the assets, and look, we're looking at the difference now between the income and the assets. So your income would be like your salary, your wages, that is what you earn. If you own a house and you rent the house, where you're now a landlord, that money coming in known as rent, that is an income. You're supposed to declare it and pay taxes on it, believe it or not, but nobody does, I don't think. Also, if you have a business and your business is turning over a profit and you're paying yourself a salary, that's an income. If you're distributing the profits at the end of the year, then that profit is an income. If you invest in shares and bonds and so on, that and you get dividend, that is an income, but that is known as security income. And let's see, any other income that you earn, like I mentioned before, with real estate, that will come under realty income. So that is what you will see when I show you the statutory declaration. So the assets now is, it says here, an item of property owned by a person or company regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. Growth in assets, right? Net assets. So your asset then is anything at all that you own. It can be tangible or intangible. Your assets can be money, it can be a car, it can be a house that you can convert into cash, and pay your debts or any commitments that you have, which would be like shares, anything that you own in shares. If you're a beneficiary, no, well, not really, but anything at all that you own, right, is considered an asset. And under the statutory declaration, you will notice bank balances are referred to as assets, in addition to whatever real estate property you own, even your life insurance that you own, that's your asset, okay? And your liabilities now is anything that you owe somebody else. So if you have a mortgage and on your house, or a lien on your car, which means that you bought the car through a loan, it's called a lien. That is something that you're obligated to pay every month or at some period in time. That is a liability. So a liability is anything at all that you have to pay out. When you get your light bill and your water bill and your telephone bill, your cable bill, your Netflix bill, all of these bills are liabilities. So your income is what it comes in, your liabilities is what you spend, and your assets more or less is what you have that you can convert into cash or something else to pay debts or anything of that nature. That now, or legacies, that's a legacies now, meaning that if you can put it in a will to will it to somebody else. So all of those things are your assets. All right, get that now? Great. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of what the Act says, of what the statutory declaration says for the Prime Minister, let me explain a little about how the Integrity Commission works. So they're speaking here about the Integrity Commission Act, the principal objects of Act. It says here the principal objects of this act, which is the Integrity Commission Act of 2017, are to further encourage and promote propriety and integrity among persons exercising public functions in Jamaica. That is their job. Promote and strengthen measures for prevention, detection, investigation, and prosecution of acts of corruption. Ensure that government contracts are awarded, varied, renewed, or terminated impartially on merit and in a financially prudent manner, and enhance public confidence that acts of corruption and impropriety committed by persons exercising public functions will be appropriately investigated and dealt with in a manner which achieves transparency, accountability, and fairness. Now, I would like to ask you a question, my viewers and my subscribers. Do you have any confidence in the Integrity Commission that acts of corruption and impropriety committed by persons exercising public functions will be appropriately investigated and dealt with? You have any such confidence? I mean, when you look at the Dwayne Vaz situation, where he failed to pay a fine from about 2021, and they did not know until 2022, and it's only 2024 they're coming to prosecute the man. You have any such confidence? I don't have none. They come out and they like to talk about things and they can't show any result of it. They came out last year with this big excitement that they have 13 members of parliament they are investigating, 6 for illicit enrichment, 7 for making false statements. In 1 year, have you seen the result of any of those reports? No. Why not? Why did they come out and run off their mouth without having reached the point where the investigation is complete and them ready to prosecute somebody? And I'm going to suggest to you that they will not prosecute anybody, because they must have run up their mouth because they feel they weren't getting the cooperation of the people. And once the people come and show them whatever it is they ask them for, that's the end of the argument. They did not even have the courtesy during the entire year to come back and say 6 are being investigated, 2 of them clear up, everything is all right, only 4. Then running up their mouth, and them can't come back and tell we nothing about these investigations. What we need to hear it for, if you not reach nowhere at all in the investigation where you can prosecute somebody. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. So anyway, so that is what them said that they're about. Let's see what else there is to it now. So it was established, it says here, it was established in 2017, the act, and it says how the commissioners are appointed. So I'm telling you this now so you can understand how the Integrity Commission works, who they are, how they're appointed, who appoints them, and how they can be removed, and so on. So here it says now, appointment of commissioners. Pursuant to Section 5 and subject to subsection 3, the commission shall consist of the following persons appointed as commissioners. So the Auditor General is a permanent member of the Integrity Commission. She and 4 other persons are appointed. So you have 5 commissioners. Of the 4 persons who are appointed, 2 of them must be judges, either from the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal, and they are retired. Then you have a senior public officer with knowledge and expertise in the area of finance, accounting, and public administration. In other words, since most of what is going to be looked at with in the Integrity Commission will be about assets and liabilities and income, you need somebody with knowledge who can look at these things and say, no man, that thing might look funny, but nothing funny about it. It's normal. You follow? So you need that person. And then the 4th person now would be somebody from a non-governmental organization like the PSOJ, somebody in civil society. So that is the general makeup of the commission. Now, the tenure. Now, when they are appointed, they have 7 years. 7 years long. That's how long they hold office for, and they may be eligible for reappointment. So they can be there for up to 14 years. And who it is that do the appointment? It's the Governor General. So it's the Governor General who consults with the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition, and he don't have to take them, when he consults with them about you or anybody else him think meets the criteria that is set out for a commissioner, integrity and all them same thing there. He can go and consult with them, and no matter what them say, he can just go ahead and appoint them. So it's he who appoint them, and if they are to be removed, it is he who, I think he has, well, let me go ahead. He has to consult with the Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister can consult with him and make any complaint, and then if he agrees, he goes and he make the arrangements for a tribunal to be put in place. They can't just get rid of them, so. And they will hear the complaints and decide whether or not the person should be removed or not. And they can be removed for misbehavior if they have mental issues and that sort of stuff. Now, the commission, in addition to having the 5 commissioners, they also have an executive director who is the person that is responsible for the day-to-day running. So it says here, subject to subsections 2 and 3, there shall be an executive director of the commission who shall be appointed by the Governor General, acting on the recommendation of the commission. So when the commission was put in place with the commissioners, they are the ones now who go out and find somebody that meets the criteria for the person who should be an executive director of the commission, and then they recommend that person to the Governor General, who makes the appointment. You got that? We now have the 5 commissioners and the executive director, who is like a CEO of a company or a general manager. They are the ones that's responsible for the day-to-day running of the commission. And then it tells you what the functions of the executive director is. So now we talk about the divisions of the Integrity Commission. So we have the commissioners, we have the executive director. Now we have the divisions, which will be where now the operations of the Integrity Commission will be carried out. So it says establishment of divisions and appointment, etc., of directors. So each division is headed by a director. So it says here at section 30, paragraph 1, the commission shall carry out its functions through the following divisions, namely the Information and Complaints Division, which shall be headed by the Director of Information and Complaints. Then now you have the Investigation Division, which shall be headed by the Director of Investigation. And third, you have the Corruption Prosecution Division, which shall be headed by the Director of Corruption Prosecution. So as it stands, there are 3. I do believe there might be 4, but I don't have what the 4th one is here. But the main ones that were mentioned here is Information and Complaints Division, the Investigation Division, and the Corruption Prosecution Division. So they have the power as commissioners, the 5 of them, to determine whether or not another division would be useful in helping them to carry out their functions. 4 now says, subject to subsection 6, the director of each division established pursuant to subsection 1A, B, and C above shall be appointed by the Governor General, acting on the recommendation of the Commission. So again, just like the Executive Director, it is the Commission and the Commissioners who are responsible for shortlisting the persons along the same line of integrity and expertise and all them things there that you read before. They are the ones that's responsible for finding these persons, and then they recommend the persons that they think are suitable to the Governor General, and the Governor General will make the appointment. So anything that is going down in the Integrity Commission where any one of these directors are failing in their duties or doing all kind of strange things, in terms of how the report is being reported, it's all the fault of the commissioners who recommended them for appointment. That unfortunately is what happens. Well, I shouldn't say that. That is what happens when you delegate your authorities to persons. Them get the blame when anything go wrong. You understand? Okay, let's move on. So now the functions of the directors of the various directors. The functions of the director of information and complaint. Now this one is very important because this is the director now. It says, who receive, keep on record and examine all statutory declarations filed with the commission. So you see, when the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, and the other persons who are required in the government sector to file or to submit statutory declarations to the commission, it goes through the Information and Complaints Division, which is headed by the director, Craig Beresford. Because if you have any complaint at all, like like one of the politicians, them or senator or the councillors, any government worker that file report. Now you can't know what they file because you're not going to see it. But if you think that you know of a property somewhere, a land or something that they own, that they might be trying to screechy, that they own it, you can call and make the report in writing though to the Director of Information and Complaints. You can call the IC and write to them and tell them that this person have this thing, you don't know if it was reported, but you think it best to report it because it is our responsibility to help stamp out corruption as well. We can't complain and we don't do nothing about it when we see corruption go on. All right? Another duty of the Director of Information and Complaints is to make such inquiries as he considers necessary in order to certify or determine the accuracy of a statutory declaration. So his job is to check to see if it's accurate, if you submitted the supporting documents. You say you own 4 Melbourne Avenue. You need to show that you own it. You follow? You have to support. You own a business. You have to submit the audited reports of the business. You are a director in the business. You have to send the audited reports because this is how they're going to know whether or not you've been using your office to enrich yourself. You don't have to do it through your own personal account. You can do it through a company that you own. You follow? So this is why they need all that information. It says also that the Director of Information and Complaints receive and keep proper record of any complaint. So any complaint you submit, he's supposed to keep it on record, right? Or information or notification in relation to any of all of the following matters. Any allegation which involves or may involve an act of corruption, any allegation regarding impropriety or irregularity with respect to the award, implementation, or termination of a government contract, or the grant, issue, suspension, or revocation of a prescribed license. All kind of corruption can take place. So it's not just award a contract, but they can also give license to people that really pay for it, so to speak. And he's also to record any allegation in respect of non-compliance with any of the provisions of this act. All right? Then now, his job is to refer to the appropriate director any complaint or information or notification received under paragraph C, right? The records that he received in complaint from the public, or any other matter which he considers appropriate for action. He's to submit to the executive director, that's the CEO, quarterly reports on the activities of the division and perform such other functions as may be assigned to him by or under this act or any other enactment. So the director of information and complaints is like the front man. You know, when you go to a store, you have the front office and you have the back office. The front office is where the sales go on. He's like the salesman there. He's the one that received the statutory declaration, investigated, you know, and he receives the complaints and send it to whichever department, which other division that needs to do the investigation. And he's the one that, it appears, does the certifying of the declaration. So when the declaration is certified, it's him. When it is not certified, based upon what I believe I understand what I'm reading here, it is him that decides not to certify. He is the one that is to ask the declarant, the person sending the declaration, for further information. So when you send in something and you say you're the director of a company, him don't see the audited reports. He's the one that is supposed to ask for it. He's the one that looks at the declaration and realize something not right about it, or want further information about something. He's the one that does that. And in that respect, he's also the one who receives the complaints. So when you send a complaint and say Tom Strokes own this, he go look up the declaration that he received, and he's the one that is going to look to see, based upon what was submitted, whether that property was included. So in that respect, that is a well-organized section, because he's the one that deals with the declaration. He's the one that deals with the complaints. And so he's able now to check right away the information coming in against the declaration that was made. You follow? And I suppose he is to forward now to any other division, whatever needs to be done. If further investigation needs to be done, I suppose that's done by the others. But let me get on. So what does this mean now? You will recall that the election in 2020 was held September 3, 2020. So the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, well, the Prime Minister in this case, because the Leader of the Opposition changed after. The declaration for that year was from January to September 3, the day of the election, 2020. After the appointment, the next one, because it's after June, election was held after June, the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition is supposed to now submit their declaration the following December 31st. You understand? So it's not December 31st of the year that the election was held. If it was held after June, they must submit after. So what you're going to find is that the last declaration of the Prime Minister was September 3, 2020. The next one he was supposed to have submitted now would have been December 31 of 2021. And that one was submitted, not yet certified, nor the one in 2022, nor the one in 2023. So he has 3 outstanding years of declaration we have not yet heard. And the Integrity Commission cannot tell us, only the Prime Minister can tell us. So what we really want is the Prime Minister to come out and tell us what it is that the Integrity Commission is saying to him, why they have not certified his declarations. Is it that they are waiting on some kind of supporting document? Is it that they got a complaint that he owns something and and they are investigating? Did they tell you anything like that? Or is it that, well, your declaration is not credible? They must have told you something. If they have not told you something, Mr. Prime Minister, you need to write to them and ask them what the hell is going on. If have you done that? And what is their response? And we are talking, and we appoint you, Some of we never vote for you, but you still represent us. So you really need to come out and talk to us. The relationship between you is with us, not the Integrity Commission. They are there to do a job. But your relationship is with us, the people. So you really need to come out and talk to us and tell us what is going on. Right? Because I can tell my viewers and my subscribers something. It is quite possible that what could be happening, is that some information is dripping and dripping into the Integrity Commission, which causes them to have to go and investigate and investigate and investigate. And because they're investigating, they cannot certify. We don't know what is happening. The Prime Minister really needs, if he hasn't done so yet, to write to these people and ask them what is going on. Right? You're busy doing something, but this is important. This is a matter of public trust. And we need to have a Prime Minister that has his declarations certified. We know that the certification of the declaration necessarily means say you're not corrupt. You might just be more efficient at hiding the things that you have. But at the same time, at the things that you did declare, they must sign off on it. Right? Okay. So let us now get to, let us not speak about that. We're going to now get to the declarations themselves, and you have been waiting patiently for that. So let us now get down to the nitty-gritty, what you're here for. I'm looking now at the gazetted. So the Prime Minister's statutory declaration is gazetted when it is certified to be in good order. It is gazetted, and that too of the leader of the opposition, which means that it is public information. They're not publishing the details, only the summary of each of the different sections. So this one we are looking at now is the earliest one we found for the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, and it is at, as it says here, December 31, 2018. So this is his 2018 declaration, and we're going to look now at the various sections to see if we discover anything in his declarations which could have caused these three that are now not certified to be not certified. So let's get into the Prime Minister's declaration for 2018. Now it says here that his salary for 2018 was $15 million. And that, remember, would include any allowances and any perks that he would have received. It's an income. He had no realty income or security income declared. So he doesn't have any property that he's renting. And he earned nothing from securities for that year. And he also didn't sell anything. But we see that he earned $474,000 in other income. When we looked at it later on, we will see that it was money that was owed to him that he had received under this particular category. So it's possible that this is what it is, but we're not quite sure what the other income is. Now, in his savings, in his assets now, you have the savings account. He has 1.1 million in that savings account. But take a look at the current account. He has 16 million in that current account, which is very unusual. And if you know anything about banking, you would know that savings account, you get an interest. But usually in current accounts, they do not pay interest. But occasionally, They do. So if he has so much of his money that he has put by in the current account, all of 16 million, what that says is that clearly this account must have been an interest-bearing account, which pays more money to him than the savings account. So what he did is make sure that him leave most of the money in the current account, and he then earns more interest, right? Nobody in their right mind would put so much money in a current account if it's not even getting 1% interest. So it's safe to say that he had this current account in some kind of bank or some kind of institution which was offering him interest, good interest rate. That is what I would suppose that this means, right? And the savings account, now it left as little money in that as possible. Now the current account is where you write checks. So you write checks, and this is the reason why most institutions, banks and so on, don't really pay on current account. But competition will make people offer to pay interest in order to attract persons who have a lot of money to spend and a lot of money to save. So that, I would think, is the explanation. I want you to remember now, how much money he has in this current account. When we look at securities now, this would now be the value of his stocks, bonds, and so on, and shares that he has in companies. And it says here that his security is valued on the face of it or market value. It could be either 10.6 million. He has a real estate property value at 7 million. That sounds like land. I don't think you can get no house and land for that kind of price these days. And that probably is either that I think is the purchase price. Because somewhere else in the next declaration, you will see what the market value is. So purchase price at the time is 7 million. He declared nothing for personal property. He has no real estate mortgages, not doing that business, no receivables. But in terms of business investments, he declared 125.6 million. I do believe this may be relating to his house, the mansion in Beverly Hills. Now remember, the property in 2018 was owned by a company called ADMAT, which he established in St. Lucia. He said it was owned by himself and his two sons, who were underage at the time, if I remember right. And therefore, this would be his share of it. So let us assume that it is split 1/3 between all three. Then this would represent 1/3 of the value. Now, because it says it's a declaration for children as well, and they're underage, one could assume that this could be the total value of the property, and it would probably be the outlay, the money that was paid, and not necessarily market value. You see what I mean? Great. So I suspect that that is the house that he's referring to there. When it comes to accounts receivables, now you see why I mentioned the 474,000 as other income. He has accounts receivables here at number 7 of 435,000. And that now suggests that, well, not suggests, he's saying here that somebody owes him this money. Could be that it loaned to a company. Could be that somebody borrowed it. Not sure if it's a business transaction or what it is, but it is money that is owed to him. When it comes to number 9 now, well, number 8, he has no automobile. He's driving government vehicle, and I suppose at the end of the period it will be sold to him. And the cash value of the life insurance, he has no life insurance at this point. If we look now at his liabilities, we see that he has a mortgage of 1.9 million, which is a real estate mortgage. So he borrowed money on one of his properties, and that's what that is about, which means he will be paying interest per annum over a period of time. He has no notes payable, either secured or unsecured. And at number 4, it says other accounts payable, it's $20 million. So this now is where now we do a little analysis. Let us now take a look at his income. His total income, which will be the salary plus the other income, will be 15.5 million, right? Now you look at the income, that is what he has, right? What does he have in his savings and current account is 17.5 million when you add what is in the savings account and the 16 million in the current account. So the total amount of money, this is how you have to do the analysis. The total amount of money he has to spend will be the 15 million plus the 17 million, which adds up to $33 million. So that's the total amount of money he would have had to spend in that entire year. But then when you look now at his liabilities total 22 million. Now he would not have been spending all of that. You'd have spent only a portion of it because it's it's liability that is paid over time. But that is the situation that he would have had in terms of 2018. Then now we need to look at his assets. The total of his assets was $161 million, right? And when you minus his liabilities from his assets, because that's how it works, you minus the 22 million that he owes from the 161 million that he has as assets, and what you get is a net assets of 139 million. That's what he was worth, right? When you do the calculation and you convert it to US, his worth at the time was a little over $1,043,000 US. All right, now remember this was past. Now, under his assets as well, under his US income, it says here on the number 4, other income, that he earned an income that year of 8,125 US, which is neither salary, not rent, sale of any property, sale of shares or shares. So we don't know what that income was about. But the Integrity Commission found nothing strange about it because they certified this particular declaration, statutory declaration. Also, under the US side, in his savings account, he had 28,000 US. He had not a dollar in the current account, US, so he only had a savings account of 28,000 US. And that's the only thing he had in as assets in US dollars. When it comes to liability, he had no US dollar liability. So what does this mean? It means that for the most part, his investments were in Jamaican dollars. And then he would have converted some of the income that he has into US, in order to preserve the value of your labor. That is very important. And then he earned $8,125. We're not quite sure where that came from, but the Integrity Commission signed off on it. So in 2018, his investments were largely in Jamaican dollars. Only his savings and an earning he had in US. Let us now look and see what the situation is in terms of 2019. But before I go, remember, when you take into consideration his US savings account as well as the earning, when you convert his total net assets, which was 142.9 million Jamaican, the rate of exchange at the time was $137 to 1. So when you convert it to US, and the reason why we convert it to US is so that we can compare the different period, because the Jamaican dollar devalues, and so what you see in terms of one year to the next, it may not be, he may not tell the truth. What you do then, you convert to a stable currency and then you can now compare. All right. The real return is what they call it on any of his investments. All right. So in 2018, Andrew Holness had a total net worth of $1,043,132.49 US. Let's now have a look at his 2019 declaration to see how he fared in his investments. Okay, so we're looking now at the Jamaica Gazette. His declaration was filed or submitted or gazetted on Friday, November 27, 2020. So as you can see, it says that this declaration is for the Most Honorable Andrew M. Holness, Prime Minister, and it is published as detailed below. And it is a summary of the statutory declaration of assets, liabilities, and income as at December 31, 2019. So this is the following year. Let's get into it and see now how Andrew fared. Did he make money? Did he lose money? What happened? All right, let's get into it. So it says here that the name of the declarant, Most Honorable Andrew M. Holness, summary of income, assets, and liabilities of declarant, spouse, and children as at December 31, 2019. So our first look now is at the income. How much money did he earn that year, and whether or not he made any more money outside of his salary. Now it says his salary was 15.3 million. This year now, he earned some money in terms of realty income. Remember the year before, he had zero, and he earned $2.1 million. Now, we're not quite sure if he sold a property. I doubt that. What I think that maybe is some kind of rent that he may have earned. But it comes under the category of realty income. So it's either that he sold a real estate property or he rented a real estate property, and this is his earnings under that. Then now his other income, which may well be the same category where he had the 474,000 the year before, it's now at $604,000. So his total income was $18,094,620.31. We're going to call it 18 million. While the year before, his total assets was 15.5 million. So what he earned in 2019 was an additional $2.5 million, and it largely came from his increase in the other income as well as the realty income. And remember, this was certified by the Integrity Commission, so he was able to provide supporting documents for both the income that he earned, the salary, as well as the other income of $604,000. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look first of all at the amount of money he had in cash from his bank accounts, as well as from his as well as from his salaries, to determine how much money he had in total that he could spend that year. So remember now, he had a total of 17.5 million in his bank accounts, the year before. According to this, his savings account had 4.3 million. So he had increased the savings account by 3 million, right? And then he reduced his current account. Remember the year before it was 16 million? He now reduced it to 3.9 million. Now this is telling us something. Whatever facility he had before, where he had 16 million in the current account, Evidently, that facility that must have been paying him interest, because you don't keep that kind of money and not earning any interest for any reason, right? Unless I don't know why you would want to have so much money in your current account and you're not earning interest. They must have been earning interest. That must have changed, and he decide now, or what is possible is that somebody else was offering higher interest in terms of savings, so he increases savings, or some other business possibilities came along, so he now decides to shift the money from the current account and from the savings, and that would have been $12 million. So $12.4 million was taken out of his accounts. So where would it have gone? Either to buy property, or to buy shares, or to pay debt. All right? Or to convert to US. So let us now look and see what he actually did. So at the end of the period, though, in 2019, he started the year with 17.5 million in his bank accounts, and by December, at the end of the year, he had only 8.2 million in it. So he had taken out a total of $9.2 million, and he must have invested it somewhere else. All right? When you take into account, though, the fact that he had earned $18 million, an additional 2.5 that year, and he had at the beginning of the year 17.5 million. When you add the two together, for the year of 2019, he had a total of $35.5 million at his disposal that he could either spend or he could hold on to. And clearly he spent some of it, because at the end of the day, he ended up with only 8.2 million in his accounts. So he did something else with the money that he took out. And we're going to see if we can discover what. All right. So when we look now at securities, now you remember the year before he had 10 million in securities, right? 10.6 million. And when we look at the securities now, it was increased to 11.7 million. So we know that 1 million out of that 9 million went into buying securities. His real estate property remained the same at 7 million, which was the buying price. And as you can see, he declared a market value here now of the same property that it is 20 million. You see why it's good to invest in real estate. You buy it for 7 million, and then the value of it can increase, never decrease, unless, something bad happened to the property. So once again, he did not declare at number 5, no other personal property. He had no mortgages, no receivables, but when it comes now to his business investments, as you can see, the value of his investments increased to 130.8 million. Now remember, it was 125 million the year before. So 125.6. One of two things probably happened. Either the value of the investments increased, due to revaluation, and the value of if it was an investment, so it could have involved some kind of an increase, or it is possible that he took some of that money that he took out of the bank and further invested in the business, right? And increased it that way. So it's one of two things, and we're not sure which. At the end of the year, though, he had total assets of $157.9 million, which, let's see if it's an increase or a decrease. I do believe the year before he had 161 million. He had 161 million the year before. In 2018, 2019, he has 157 million, which means that his assets decreased by 3.3 million. Now, what does that signify? Either he sold some of his assets and turned it into cash, or he lost some of the investments, in value. The investments, the assets lost value. But when you look at the US side now, then now we'll see if any activities occurred there to explain what could have happened to the money that he took out of the bank plus the reduction in his assets. Let's see what that means. Now, when we take a look now at the US dollar side, what we see is that there is a significant jump in his assets. Remember, the year before in 2018, he had only $28,000 and change. Let's see what the correct figure is. It's $28,272.11 in a savings account. And then he had earnings of $8,125, right? That's what he had in US investments. But look at what happened to his US investments in 2019. It significantly jumped to 109,000, which is an increase I see here of $81,000 US, if my mathematics serves me right, and I'm looking at the correct figure, right? That's a significant jump. So we can now see where the money must have gone. Let us look at the savings account. He reduced the savings account from 28,000, right, to $13,557.43. So he reduced his savings account. Let me see if I did it. No, I didn't do it. But it amounts to, from 28 to, it's about 15,000. So he reduced it to 15,000. He then put some money now in his current account of 2,076. Last year he had none in it. In 2018 he had no money in his current account. He didn't have a current account apparently. And then look what happened to securities. He bought $94,000 in securities. And after that, there's nothing else. No real estate he bought. He has no mortgages, no business investments. Nobody owes him money in US. He has no automobile and he has no insurance. So in terms of his assets, he clearly shifted money around in order to take advantage of what must be $94,000 worth of securities, whether that be stocks or bonds. And when I say 94,000 US dollars, we're talking about securities denominated in US dollars. It doesn't necessarily mean it is securities bought outside of the country, but it could. Otherwise, it could be securities that were sold in Jamaica, but it was denominated in US. Now, let me tell you one thing that I'm saying here. It was when I was looking at the three declarations that I observed these things, and I was talking to my cousin who's a chartered accountant, retired, and I said, but wait, but this seems as if he's moving money around. Now, remember, you see him almost every day on TV, up and down the place, making some speech, digging up something, saying that he might build this, or he might build that, or he's doing something. So obviously, he's not the one who could be doing this movement of the money. He obviously has some kind of wealth manager that is managing his funds for him. So if a deal came up, either an established business was selling shares to raise funds, or some new business or something came up, and his wealth manager gave him a call and said, Mr. Prime Minister, or maybe if it might be good know them one another like that. He might say, Andrew, some stocks just come on the market, Yeah, man, you need to get on this because based upon the market and based upon the world trend and all kind of things are happening in the world, and there's a shortage of this and there's a shortage of that, and we believe that by such and such, if you pay so much more, like $10 for it now, by next year it probably will go to 15, and then you can offload and make a bag of money. Something like that must have been done, and him jump on it. And what he did, he started to shift up his assets. he took money out of his current account. He took money out of the U.S. savings account. He took part of his salaries, and he ran and bought up these shares for 94,000 US. Right? He also put some money in his current account. When it comes now to the liability on the US side, here now he incurred an $11,000 liability. That could well be that he probably took a loan, possibly, or get some kind of line of credit or something, and bought shares as well, or probably do something else with it, right? He was shifting his money into US dollars here. And as you can see on the salary side, on the income side, there was no earnings at all there. So this suggests to me that he has some wealth manager that is advising him, and he's gambling. I call it gambling. The people in the business, them like to nice up things. They call it taking risk. So he was taking a risk. And let us now see in 2020, because we have the benefit of that return in 2020, how well he fared. How well did this risk do? Did he lose money? Did he gain? What happened? But before I go to 2020, when we look at his liabilities, let me see now, reduced to $15 million. Remember, it was at $22 million before, so he paid down some of his debts as well. And he paid down his debts to the tune of $6.3 million. So some of that money that was shifting around went into paying down some of his debts. The mortgage went down by $629, which probably is the amount he's paying per annum on the mortgage that he got on the real estate property. And the payables now, account payables, which is the line of credit, he paid that down by $5.7 million, and then he owed at the end of 2019 only $14.5 million. So that is what explains that. When you total up now his income and his assets, he had a total net assets of $173 million, which means at the end of it all, he increased his income. So even though some of his assets were reduced by $3.3 million, which may have been him selling some of his stuff and buying up the US in order to buy the shares, among other things, he still came out at the end of it all with $173 million, which increased his, remember he had $161 million, was that it? $142 million net the year before. And now he increased his total assets by $30.4 million. Right? So he made a good income. And when you look at the income and the return on the investments, when you compare 2018, he earned 18% return on the investments that he was making, because outside of his income and his liabilities and his bank accounts, everything more or less was investment. So how do we analyze what we're looking at now for 2019? He started the year with a bank balance of $17.5 million. And during the year, he earned a salary and the income of $18 million. So for the entire year, he had $35.6 million to spend. At the end of the year, he had only $8.3 in his account, which meant that he spent $27.3 million during the year. After paying his liabilities of $6.3 million, he had left $20.9 million to spend. which is when you convert it to US at 141 to 1 for that year, he would have had left for $148,395.65. What he did with that money was to buy securities of 94,000 US, which calculates to 13.3 million. That's what he spent out of the 20 million, 13.5 million to buy the securities. That now leaves him a balance of 54,000 US or 7.7 million. Now, out of that 7.7 million, he bought Jamaican securities and invested in business. That business investments increased by 5 million, remember? And that only leave him now with 1.4 million, which I can't tell what happened to that. So that is how you analyze now the account and see what he's doing. So the base period of 2018 is where we start. We look at 2019 to see what activities were going on with his various assets, as well as how much money he earned, his liabilities, and what he has in US invested and what he has in Jamaica invested, what in real estate and what in securities. And what this is definitely showing is that Andrew Holness has some kind of wealth manager who must be brilliant no end, who can look at stocks and bonds and shares and project. They have a way of doing the analysis. They look also on world events and what's happening in Jamaica, and they make a scientific, I suppose they would call it, or educated guess. No, it's more than that. But it is still risky because what they project to happen may not happen. Other things may happen in the world that put the whole thing asunder. But at least for the year 2019, he took his wealth manager's advice and switched up his investments, shifting from Jamaican into US and largely into shares, paid on some of his debts and so on. So he's moving his money around. Let us see now what happened in 2020. Now, as you can see here, his declaration for 2020 was submitted as at the September 3. Remember, that was a general election. So you submit your return now up to September 3 of 2020. This statutory declaration of Andrew Holness was gazetted on Monday, January 10, 2022. You see that? It's from 2020, September 3, but it was not gazetted until, well, a year and plenty after. So they took some time in order to straighten this one out. Let's see why. So as you can see in the left-hand corner, that the declarant is the Most Honorable Andrew M. Holness, which is a summary of income, assets, and liabilities of declarant's spouse and children as at September 3, 2020, for the period January 1, 2020 to September 3, 2020. So let's now see what is happening here. Now, as you can see, his salary is now $10 million. Why 10 million? Because it was not to December, but in fact, it was dated to September 3. So that was his salary up to that time. It was $10 million, 10.4 million. All right. So I'm going for my other book where I made my notes. And for that period, he earned another realty income of 2.9 million this time. So it's either that he sold property again or he's getting rent for the property. Usually when you're renting in Jamaican dollars every year, the lease oftentimes have an increase in it of 7.5%, which is the maximum you can increase rent in a year. So that could possibly be one of the reasons why the realty income went up, but I doubt it because this is a significant jump. I don't know what he could have rented, but that's what they said. And the Integrity Commission was satisfied with what it was that he produced as the supporting documents, that all was in order with this realty income. So we know that's not a problem. Now in this side, look at the other income. It has jumped from 604,000 to 6 million up to September. Now, we don't know what that is, but the Integrity Commission signed off on it. It clearly is legit, and they have no issues with it. He would have brought the supporting documents. If it is coming under other income, it means that it was not salary, not income from real estate, and not income from security. So it's some other kind of income. All right, we don't know what that is. We'll speculate. Now, let us look now at his savings account. Now, his savings account has in it 11. This is his assets now, $11.8 million. Right? Now, that is a significant jump over 2019. Remember 2019? He had 4.3 million. So he increased the money in his savings account by 7.4 million. When you look at the savings at the current account, he had 3.9 million in 2019. He increased that amount by 793,000. That is what was in his account as at the 3rd of September 2020. So he increased it by 793,000. Now, when you have current accounts, as I said before, usually you don't get interest on it. So what you would do is keep just that amount of money in it to pay your bills. If you have gardener, I don't know if the government doesn't pay the gardener. I think the government pays the housekeeper. Anything at all that he's paying out, you put it in your current account, you just draw a check and pay. Wife, you might go buy grocery or whatever it is, school fee for children, that sort of thing, and you use your current account. And so at the end of 2019, remember, the balance in his accounts were 8.3 million, and up to September 2020, he had 16.5 million in his accounts. Most of it, 11.8 million in his savings account, which would now suggest that wherever he had the savings, whether in the usual account or maybe he moved it somewhere else, he must have been getting good interest rates for him to be saving, to have so much money in his savings account, or maybe like a few days before, it's possible, a few days before something came in, either, maybe he sold something and it came in and it's just resting there for the time being. But on the face of it, it would appear as though the interest rates now may have been higher. Somebody may have been offering higher interest rate and him shift the money now into savings, keep only what he needs to spend for the year for the period in the current account. And so at the end of the period, which was September 3, 2020, he had 16.5 million now in his accounts, which is an increase of 8.2 million. So he literally double the amount of money that he had there. So when you take his salary now, which now for the year, $19.4 million up to September, from January to September 2020, that's an increase of $1.3 million over 2019. And the total income up to that point is 19.4 million. When you take that 19.4 million and add it to the 8.2 million that he had from the year before in his accounts, the total amount that he had to spend up to September of 2020 was 27.7 million. It's important that we know that because that's the only thing he can spend, right, out of his income and out of his bank account, unless he's going to liquidate his assets and then have money from there. So that's why we say so. In 2020, he had 27.7 million, which is 7.8 million less than what he had in 2020. Remember, in 2020, he had 35.4 million or something like that. Right. Well, that amount reduced. And it reduced because of the amount of money he had left the year before in his account, which was 8.299 million. Right, we're getting it so far. So he had now 27.7 million. When we look now at his securities increased to 16 million from 11.7 million the year before. So he has invested more money in Jamaican dollar securities, right? Securities that are denominated in Jamaican dollars. He increased that, which shows that he has some kind of confidence in what is happening in our market, in our economy, that he would have sought to increase his investments in Jamaican currency. His real estate assets remained 7 million, so he still had the property. He had no receivables. The year before, he had $435,000, which was paid, and that would have increased the other income to 604,000. I didn't mention it, but I mention it now because I remembered. And when we look now at his business investments in 2020, it decreased by $1,086,000. So it was 130.8 before, and it went down to 129.7 million. Right? Now, either he lost investment or the investment is 129 because it is, after all, at September. Maybe by the end of the year, he would have earned some more, and so on. So that's that. This time around now, he decided to buy insurance. So his cash value of the insurance is $2.8 million, which now gives him a total assets of $172 million. Let us look at the liabilities now. And what we notice with his liabilities, let's see now if I'm looking at US. Yes, in the liabilities corner, he only paid $141,000. His mortgage went down by $103,000, which meant he paid that. And the other payable, remember, it was 14.5 million in 2019. It actually went up to 14.7. So he had increased his assuming that this is the what do you call it now? The facilities that he got from merchants. He increased it by 245,000. So he increased the liability by 241,000, which meant that all he paid out for that year was 141,000. So he didn't pay much in the liability side up to September. Right? That's what that is saying. But he ended up with 172 million in assets up to September, which means that his investments were doing damn good. Again, I wonder who is his wealth manager. I don't know money, but boy, I may tell you, I'd like to noise him about the place. I don't think he would tell us who that is, though. The other security wealth managers would quarrel and complain if he did that. Now, when it comes to the US side now, he had a security income of $16,635. Now, remember, he had invested $94,000 in securities. And we are talking about here 94,000 US dollars the year before in 2019, right? And this is saying that on that investment, because it's the only investment that he had in US dollars, which could have earned him the $16,635.01. Now, recall what security income is. It is the income that you earn on your shares, stocks, bonds, and so forth, or if you had sold your shares, stocks, and bonds, or earned dividend on it. So, what this is saying, he made an investment on the advice of his wealth manager. I'm sure he wouldn't have the time to do any of those things. So he had somebody, or has somebody, or some security firm or some security person that's advising him, possibly managing his assets for him. And they would have advised him to buy these shares, or stocks or bonds, and he did. And by September, right? Remember, he had no income for security from in US dollars from either 2018 or 2019. So it must have been on the 94,000 US investment that he made. And he would have earned $16,635.01, either from dividends paid or from selling a portion of it. He could have sold a portion of it, and also it could have been, well, that's it. Either it's income from dividend or he sold the shares. But look at this. Look at his US dollar assets. As you can see, the savings account went up from 13,000 to 15,000, which is $2,000 increase, right? When it comes to his current account, he had more money in the current account. He added more. He added 4,000 more and increased it to $6,000. But look at the securities. He actually increased his US dollar securities from 94,000 to 112,000, which is 18,000 US dollar more. What could have happened though is that he could have sold some of those $94,000 share, and then therefore that 16,600 would have been a reflection of what he sold, and he could have bought more shares otherwise. Because remember, he's shifting his money around. Remember, he also has 27 million to spend during that year, and he's putting his money where he can earn a quick buck, which is a smart thing to do if you are a real gambler and you trust your wealth manager and the advice that they give you. So he also in that year had a liability of $7,606. I do believe it's the first liability. No, he had a liability from the year before of, I do believe, 11,000 in US dollars. So his liability up to September 2020 in US dollars decreased to $7,606, which would be 4,500. All right, so that is that for the assets in both US and Jamaican dollars. But before we move on, let me point out that his total US dollar investments increased to $135,157, up from $109,000 the year before. So he increased his investments by $25,523.72. That's what he increased his investments by in US dollars over the period January 1, 2020 to September 3. So he clearly saw some where if he took a little risk additional risk, he'll earn some more money, and his wealth manager must have told him so. So, having gotten 16,600, assuming that that is dividend, if that is at all possible, dividend, or when he sold his shares, he must have made money on the sale of those shares. Otherwise, he would not have sold it, right? So, seeing that he made, and this is US dollar, you're talking about. So, you're talking about a real increase in his investments. Now, when we take a look at his total assets in Jamaican dollars, it's $172,506,402.21. You're going to add to that 172 million his US dollar assets, which I converted into Jamaican to be 20.2 million, to get his total assets of 192 million by September of 2020. Remember, all of this was signed off on by the Integrity Commission. Yes, it is a massive increase, but he clearly was able to show supporting documents. I guess his wealth manager will be able to show them the accounts or the balance on the accounts that they are managing for him, to the satisfaction of Mr. Craig Beresford, who is the man who all of this would have been submitted to. And he signed off on it. Took a long time, way into January of 2022, but he signed off on it. So we're talking about, as far as these declarations are concerned, the Integrity Commission had no reason to believe there's any footsie-wootsie, and everything was above board. So his assets, total assets, increased to 192 million. Now, what was it the year before? It was 157 million. Now, we have to take away now from his total assets his total liabilities, which, remember, increased a bit. And then you would get now a net figure of 175,652,036.83. Now, that is his total net assets. Now, when you convert his total net assets to US dollars at a rate of 150 to 1, because that was the rate for the year 2020, 150 to 1, his assets, his net assets up to September 3, 2020 was $1,171,013.58. Now, when you compare what that figure was at the end of 2019, his total net assets converted to US dollar in 2019 was $1,227,083.58. So when you take that away from his net assets in US dollars in 2020, he, up to September 2020, that is, up to that point, he would have lost 50,000 US dollars. But remember, he still had 3 months to go to finish the year, which means that up to that point, he had a loss on his investments of minus 4.5%. The year before, he had 18% increase and return, and the year after, he would have lost up to September 2020. Now, what would have happened between September 2020 and December 31 would now go into the next year, because his next filing would have been due December 31, 2021. But unfortunately, we do not have the benefit of that to see how he fared, if his investments went up or it went down. But based upon what we were looking at here in terms of his total assets in 2020, remember now his salary was 10 million, 10.4 million, which means that there's another 5 million in salary that would have been gone into the next year of 2021 filing. So, but his total assets was 172 million, which was 14.5 million more than what it was the year before, up to September. So where was the falling down now? It's in his liabilities. It didn't pay much. As a matter of fact, he increased it by a little bit, 145,000 if I remember right. Plus he had decreased his liability in US dollars on that side. So it is the liability plus the $15 million in line of credit. That's what I could not remember. He had lines of credit, he said. We now come to the analysis of his income, his assets and liabilities in US and in Jamaican dollars for 2020. Let us see now how we would go about analyzing what we have gone through so far. So he would have started the year with 8.3 million in his account. And when you add the 19.4 million in income for that year, you would have gotten a total of 27.7 million. Now, at the end of September 2020, what he had left in his account was 16.5 million, which meant that for the year he spent 11.2 million. That is the year to date, which would have been September 2020. He increased his liabilities by 142,000 Jamaican dollars, which is just 946 US. And he decreased his US dollar liabilities by about 4,000, from 11,000 to 11,200 to 7,600. He then bought additional securities of 18,990 US, which amounts to 2.8 million Jamaican, and he received a security income of 16,600 or $2.5 million. So, what we are seeing here is a prime minister who takes a lot of financial risk. He has found himself a wealth manager that knows how to play the securities game, and he has been making a killing of it. He's been moving his money around to wherever it is that he can increase his income. And that is a smart thing to do. Nothing wrong with that. Now, remember now, all of this was signed off on by the Integrity Commission. They were checked and found to be in order. He provided them with the supporting documents to prove that all of what we are seeing here is legitimate, right? And what we are seeing here are some massive jumps in his assets, which he could substantiate with evidence to the satisfaction of the Integrity Commission. Now, may we venture to guess what must have happened or what could have happened with his other statutory declarations. Can you guess? Yes, I believe so. I believe that what happened is that they make such a big killing in the following year that it is possible that the Integrity Commission is either not buying it or the wealth manager did not provide sufficient information for them to say, the Integrity Commission, to certify the declaration. They have to show the supporting documents, right? Maybe he changed wealth manager. I can't imagine who in a right mind would do that, making such doing so well in your investment from this wealth manager. I can imagine that. But something clearly went wrong with the other three. Now remember, they have not even passed or certified the 2021 declaration. They have not certified 2022, which means that this is a pile up on them now, and they have not certified 2023, right? So, what is the issue? The Prime Minister has been moving his money around. What kind of income and what kind of transaction could have caused them now to pause? Is it that they don't believe what they're seeing? Is it that there is something that is not verifiable yet? What is it? The Prime Minister, as I said before, really should come and explain to us what he was told. He can't just leave it like that. He has to go and find out and tell us. Since it's out there, it's an issue we really want to know, and people want to know, because I'm sure people are going to be listening to this. It's very long. I'm going to cut it down though. I mean, what I have here is 2 hours and 13 minutes. I'm going to never start from Mark Golding one yet. But as I said, so let me start on Mark. Let us have a look now at Mark Golding's declarations to see why he has been passing and see if there's anything different with Andrew Holness's declarations that we may observe. So this is Mark Golding's first statutory declaration. It was made December 31, 2021, and they finally gazetted it in October 3, 2022. So they took almost a year with his as well. And, he has a lot of assets, so I suppose it took them a little while, or maybe they had questions for him as well. So this now is his first filing since he became leader of the opposition. His declaration is for the period January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021. And it says the name of declarant, Mr. Mark J. Golding, summary of income, assets, and liabilities of declarant's spouse and children as at December 31, 2021. So that would have been the first year that he would have submitted his declarations, statutory declarations. Now it has him as having an income of $10 million in salary. When it comes to realty income, he has $800,000 here, which meant it's either rental of something, or he sold something, some real property. More than likely, it's rental of something. His security income is $3,043,286. That's his security income. So that would be now the shares that he either sold during the year and make a profit, or not a profit, make an income, and or this may represent dividends on his securities investment, and we will come to that shortly. In any event, his other income for the year was $7.2 million. And we don't know what that is, but it's whatever that income is, it's not within the category of salary, real estate income, or securities income. All right. So he now had a total of $21.4 million in income in 2021. All right. When it comes now to his assets, he had a total of $117 million in assets. Let's look now at his savings account. Now, as you can see, his savings account, he has $1.4 million in his savings account, but only $287,000 in his current account. And this now is what the situation was at the end of December 2021. He may have had more during the year, more money in the account, but this is the balance that's in his account, his savings and current account in 2021 at December 31. That would give us a total now of, let me see, $1.7 million in his bank accounts. Now, he had securities in stocks, bonds, shares of 62 million, and this is the Jamaican side now. And he had a real estate property which he had bought for $10 million. And at the time of the declaration, it had an estimated value of 45 million. Now, that could either be his Farringdon house or the house that he eventually sold. I suspect it's the house that he eventually sold, but we will come to that shortly. Now, as you can see, he declared at 5 other personal property, which is 1.15 million. And Andrew Holness declared no personal property. His real estate mortgage, he has none, no receivables. And in his business investments now, he has $25 million. I suspect that maybe the shares that he owns in Rerum. That's a company that he, Bunting, and Omar Newell owns. No accounts receivables for this year. He owns automobiles to the tune of 10.8 million, and he has a cash value of life insurance of 6 million. Now, his assets, as I said before, is a total of 117 million Jamaican dollars. So that's his assets in Jamaican dollars. He also has in his savings account 1,660 pounds sterling. So he has a pound sterling savings account in addition to a Jamaican dollar savings account. Okay, let's move on. Well, before I move on, let's look at the liability. He has 25 pounds and 92 cents as accounts payable. That more than likely, because of the small amount, that could well be that he has a debit card, maybe from Barclays or one of them banks, that is denominated in pounds. Nothing wrong with that. Perfectly reasonable. People deal in currencies that they have confidence in and they feel that they can, make a return. Nothing wrong with that. We'll return to the U.S. investments now. He has a security income of 593,277 US dollars in income. Now, it says security income. So, one of two things happened. Either he earned that amount in dividend, which I doubt, because when you look at his securities in terms of the Jamaican dollar, 62 million works out to 415,000 US. And then he also has US securities of $580,000, which will give you roughly $1 million. It's doubtful that he could have earned 50% more than 50% in security income. So what this could represent is he may have sold some shares as well as earned some dividend. All right. So that is what that would be, I imagine. When it comes now to his assets in his savings accounts, US savings accounts, he has 273,376 US dollars in the account. Now recall that he had in the Jamaican dollar account 1.7 million. So he definitely is saving his money in US dollars, which meant he didn't have much confidence in the Jamaican dollar holding its value. And there is not a thing wrong with that. That is business. So a quick calculation showed that the Jamaican dollars, 1.7 million Jamaican that he has in his current and in his savings account amounts to 11,000 US equivalent if he was to buy US with it. So he definitely has a greater portion of his savings in US dollars, and it was in the savings account. So he didn't have much, he didn't have any current account at that time in US dollars. All right, so the next point is in his securities now. He had $580,000 in securities. That would be stocks, bonds, and shares. He would have had stocks, bonds, and shares denominated in US dollars. The stocks and bonds could be for companies who sold shares here in Jamaica, or maybe he bought shares in abroad, like, New York stock market, or all about the place where they think they can make money. Nothing wrong with that. It's investment. And the real estate property now, he says he has a real estate property or real estate properties to the tune of 140,000 US dollars. Now we know that he has a property in Portland in his wife's name and his name that they bought in 2015 for 25,000 US dollars. Very likely, perhaps it was added here. There is a property that he also had in or has in Florida. That could be what they're referring to, because the Farringdon house that he lives in is owned by a company, and he transferred the shares, he told Zara Burton, in 2021 to his children, which means that him kind of catch in picking them house now. So that's that situation. And we don't know of any other real estate property, except the townhouse at what's it called, a Bamboo Court in Ligani, where his parents lived, and I understand his mother still lives there. He also owns that, but it's a company again that owns that property. It's called Goldex, and it's not in his or his sister's name. They are directors in the company though. So we're assuming that his father owned it, and these ladies that who are said to be shareholders, they may be trustees, but then it's possible that they are not. But Mark and his sister are directors, so he's supposed to provide the Integrity Commission with audited accounts for that company. We don't know if that was done. So we're not sure what this 140,000 is, but it could never be the Farringdon house. I can tell that house supposed to value maybe about $1.5 million US. And the mere fact that he, as opposition leader, is in that house, it would have a premium price to it. People pay extra to sit down and drink with them friend and boast. You know that this was Mark Golding's house? Yes, the British man. Yes, man. Oh, Lord. I have history now. The house has more value. And all the properties that he owns, especially ones that, he has connection with, like the one that he's living in Farringdon. So, according to this now, his total assets, when you take the life insurance, so he has life insurance of $246,000, and he owns automobiles to the tune of $86,000. So he seems to have either a nice vehicle or several vehicles, perhaps for himself. He may have bought it for his wife, children, and may have bought it in his own name. Some men do that. And the liabilities that he has is accounts payable. He owes money to the tune of 3,101 US dollars. All right, so that's Marky G. We now move to his final declaration, which was for December 31, 2022. It says at the bottom, for Mr. Mark J. Golding, leader of the opposition, is published as detailed below. And it was gazetted on Friday, September 29, 2023. That's nearly a full year again it took them to certify him. So let us see what he declared for 2022. Did he make some money? Did he lose money? We'll find out shortly. So this reads that the name of the declarant, Mr. Mark J. Golding, summary of income, assets, liabilities of declarant, spouse, and children as at December 31, 2022, for the period January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2022. And as I said, it was approved last year, September, and he would have submitted one again for December 31, 2023, so would the Prime Minister. And we have not heard that it has been gazetted as yet for Andrew or for Mark. So let us now see what Mark's situation was in 2022. All right, so he said he had an income. Let me make it bigger for you so you can read it. Okay, so in the income, we want to see now exactly how much money he got for the year. And it says here that his salary was 10.2 million for the year. And based on what we're looking at here, he would have suffered a loss of $118,000 because his income the year before was 10.3 million. We don't know what accounts for that, but so be it. Now he has a real estate income of $56 million, which he told Zara, if I remember right, that he had sold his matrimonial home in Hope Pastures for that amount. If it is on the realty income, it would mean that that property was in he and his wife's name, and therefore it comes on the realty income. He then also had $2,026,000 in security income. That would be dividend on his securities, stocks, bonds, and the likes, or he sold some shares. More than likely, it was dividends on his investments in securities, stocks, bonds, and shares in companies. He also had other income of $2.4 million. So when you look at last year's figure, his security for last year, his earnings was $3 million. He had a $2 million earning this year, which meant that he lost $1 million in securities income. And that could be that he lost, dividend. Some of his shares may have lost value. When it comes to other income, where last year it had 7.2 million, this year it had 2.4 million. So that would be that he would have received 4.8 million less. Now, the sale of the real estate property boosted his income no ends, from 21 million in 2021 to 70.6 million. But if he had not sold that property, right, he would in fact have made a loss of 5.9 million on his income for that year, because the security income is $1 million less and he received 4.8 million less in terms of other income. So he would have actually made a loss. So that sale of the property came in very handy, I am sure. Now, when you look now at his assets, you see that he has in his savings account only $10,965.84, and we're talking Jamaican dollars. So he has only $10,000 in his savings account, which meant that he had reduced his savings account by $1.4 million. Very likely he took it and did something with it. Now, at the same time, he increased his current account current account balance at the end of 2022. In 2021, he had only $287,000 in his current account, but he increased it to 3.6 million. So he increased his current account by 3.3 million. Very possibly he has expenses that he's paying through the year, or very possible he moved his money to, or he was offered interest on his current account, so he shifted money from his savings to his current if it's paying more than what he was getting in savings. Also, he was just spending more money and he used check, maybe pay people or some such thing. All right, so when it comes now to his securities, look at what happened. He increased his security last year or the year before. In 2021, he had 62 million Jamaican dollars in securities. This year, which is 2022, he increased that significantly to $109 million, right? That's a $47 million increase in his investment. So he clearly has a lot of confidence in the economy that he would invest so much of his income into securities. And at the end of the year before, he had a whole lot of pile of money. He had something to the order of $129 million at his disposal between his income and the securities income as well. He had 129 million to spare, so he decided to buy shares with it. All right, and his real estate, he had none now because he sold the one that he had before, so he had no real estate value, no real estate property in Jamaican dollars. His personal property remained the same. His investment in business remained the same, 25 million. But he had a receivables of 7.5 million. Somebody owed him money of $7.5 million. Could be the party too, if you loan the party money. His automobiles remain the same, 10.8 million. But his insurance cash value reduced by 409,000 to 5.7 million. So all in all, he increased his current account and reduced his savings account significantly. So he took the money out the savings account and did something with it. Could be that he moved it to his current account or he bought shares. Also, of his income which was available to him, remember now him have $70 million now, because he sold the property, the house in Barbican, and now he bought shares, $47 million worth of extra shares, and also during the period he loaned somebody some money and he lost a little value on his insurance cash value. So that's the state now of his assets in Jamaican dollar. When it comes to his assets in euro and pound sterling, he reduced his securities. Either it was reduced in value because there was a big loss on the exchange rate as well. The euro in 2021 was 175 to 1 Jamaican, 175 Jamaican to 1 euro, and it fell significantly to $161 to 1 euro. So he got a bit of a beating. The reduction in the euro investment amounted to 930,000, and that included the loss on the currency value. So what could have happened here? He could have sold the shares when he realized that, maybe he thought that there was something else he could put the money in, or the share lost value. So looking at now pound sterling, his savings account, it increased by 20 pounds, and but he would have suffered a loss of 26,000 because of the value in the currency. When you do the conversion, there was a loss in value. The pound in 2021 went for 207 Jamaican dollars to a pound. It went down to $189 to a pound. So if when we're doing our calculation and we convert to Jamaica, you're going to have a little loss of 26,000 pound. Then 26,000 Jamaican dollars. If we look now at his US dollar earnings and investments, we see that he had an income of 444,656 US dollars, and that would be security income. Now, the year before, his security income was 580,000 US dollars, which meant that he lost $101,000 in value. Either that he sold some of his shares or the share value was lost during that period. So his securities income of 444,000, that would either be that he sold some shares as well as earned some dividend. So that's what I believe that is. His assets now, let's look now at his assets. His savings account is at $115,000, and he now has a current account of $1,534 to give a total of 117,000 US. Now that is a significant drop of 156,000 because the year before he had $273 in his savings account. So he obviously liquidated some of that, or I should say, he obviously took some money out of his accounts and did something with it. Possibly, he bought the securities. Before, at the top here, where he bought the Jamaican dollar securities. Maybe so. Let us look and see if maybe there was something else that he did with it. Then now his real estate property remains the same. He declared 140,000 in value. His automobiles remain the same, $86,000, and his life insurance dropped by $42,000 in value. So his total assets in US dollars was $1,026,000. Now that represents a fall in income of nearly 300,000 US. That's $299,836.91. Because in 2021 he had total US dollar assets of 1.3 million, and it's now 1,026,000. So he lost nearly $300,000 in asset value, largely because he reduced his the amount in his savings account by 156,000, and his securities income fell by $101,000. So that would be the cause. He also reduced his liabilities from $3,101 a year before to $630. So let's see now what all this means in terms of Mark, and let's see now what we have seen here so far. When you compare Mark's assets with Andrew Holness, is that Mark is earning, just like Andrew is earning, income. Mark sold a property. He can verify that he did. He has his sale agreement and so on. And he would have increased his securities by, I have here 75%. He increased his securities by 75%. So he would have withdrawn some money from his US dollar accounts to buy up these shares, stocks or bonds, and from the sale of his property, the 56 million, he probably used some of that to buy up the stocks and the bonds, and these are denominated in Jamaican dollars. There's no doubt that the properties that they're investing in are in Jamaica. So he has lots of confidence in the Jamaican economy. Never mind what he says out there on the political platform. This is evidence that he has. I mean, you sell a real estate property. Think about this. Real estate property, is always increasing value. It holds its value. It's a solid investment. securities can go up and it can come down. It can go right down to nothing, which means you could lose everything, as many people did in 1929 who owned stocks. Many of them were ruined, went bankrupt, right? And you sold your property for 56 million. You took money out of your US account and you then turn around and bought bonds and stocks and shares in companies in Jamaica. You have to have confidence in the economy. So when you hear Marky G out on the platform talking about how bad things are, he not taught the truth. Him don't believe it because his action is suggesting. Or at any rate, I'm sure it's his wealth manager. I'm sure he doesn't have time to do these things himself. So he must have a wealth manager that does the investment for him. And his wealth manager has convinced him that, put the money here. And because he has confidence in the economy, that's what he did, converting his US dollars into Jamaican dollars to buy securities. That's confidence, man. Mark, why are you doing those things, man? The government doesn't have to fail in order for you to be able to become prime minister, as you say, right? You can come with some bigger and better ideas, right? So if you have confidence in the economy that it's going somewhere, after all, it was Portia and it was Peter who set up this thing. Own it, man, and show the people that you have confidence. Well, you don't have to. May I tell them now that you have total confidence in the economy, that you could increase your securities in 1 year by 75%. Taking out money all out of your US dollars account. This is very interesting, right? So let's now look now at what we know about Mark's, our analysis now. So when we look at his declaration for 2021, the US dollar at the time was approximately 150 to 1. So his income of 21.4 million during the year 2021. He had 1.8 million in his bank account, plus he had approximately 343,000 when you convert the pounds, the 1,660 pounds to Jamaican, plus when you add now his, let's see what that was now, his $273,000, which was in his savings account, and you're talking also about his securities income of 580,000, which amounts to 88 million Jamaican dollars. He had at the end of the year around $129 million that he had as ready cash and money that he can invest in something for the year coming up. When you look now at the analysis of 2022, Mark's income got a significant boost with the sale of the real estate property he owned. He received $56 million from the sale during the year. He received $118,000 less in salary though, and his security income decreased by $1 million, and other income also decreased, this time by a significant $4.8 million. So that is a loss in income of 5.9 million. So if he had not had the 56 million, he would have lost 5.9 million for that year. But of course, as I said, the sale of the real estate ensured he closed the year with an income of 70.6 million. When you add to that his bank balances, which increased by 1.8 million to 3.6 million, his security income of 67 million plus 17.8 million in his US account. This is Jamaican we're talking about now. Mark had a total of 159 159 million Jamaican dollars, which is the equivalent of around 1 million US to spend during 2021. I believe this should say during 2022. So what did he do now with the money? What he did really was he increased his securities which are or were denominated in Jamaican dollars by $47 million. So of the 159 million, he spent 47 million in securities. He decreased his US dollar investments by around 300,000, or he lost on the investment. And we're talking about the securities. His Jamaican total assets increased by $46 million. His total net assets for 2021, we're going to compare 2021 now with 2022. His total net assets for 2021 was a total of 2 million. And when you did all the calculations for 2022 with the shifting in his asset base by selling real estate and buying securities and so on, it amounted to the same amount. So he did not really increase his income in 2022 over 2021. As a matter of fact, when you convert that $56 million that he got from the sale of his property, that worked out to $368,000. Had he not made that sale and you took that 368,000 US dollars from his net assets of 2,089,000, he would have ended up with $1.6 million in US, which would have been a significant loss. So clearly something went wrong with his investments. His wealth manager, don't know who it is, may have fallen down on the job, as well as maybe, circumstances overtook him. So Marky G actually ended up with 1.6 million if he had not sold that property. But the sale of the property and the further investments in shares and so on, we'll have to wait now to see when the IC certify his statutory declaration, how he fared last year. So I guess he might say he might have a good year, bad year, not sure. If you convert the 2 million by the 152 to 1, which is what US was in 2022, you would get a total net assets of 319 million Jamaican dollars when compared to the previous year of 317.4 million Jamaican dollars. Mark Golding would have increased his total net assets by $2 million. So it's not really much, but at least he didn't make a loss on his investments. But that is the situation of his account. So what have we noticed now about Mark's account and Andrew's account? Mark's account, as I said before, is fairly stable. Not a lot of activities. He did sell assets and he purchased shares, and he took money out of his savings accounts in Jamaican and US. He increased his current account. That's just about it. So when he submits his declaration, there is not much movement that is going on in his business transactions. So it's easy for the Integrity Commission to look at his dealings, see that it's more or less the same, just a few different transactions, everything that was confirmed the year before, it coming back to them again with the usual supporting documents. And therefore, they still have to go and do their investigations in terms of the changes. And we don't know why it takes so long with Mark's own, but they do take as long, nearly a year, to certify his statutory declaration. Andrew Holness's statutory declaration is another story. it contains a lot of movement in and out of his accounts. He is buying stocks and shares and he's moving the money around. So it's almost as if every time he submits a declaration, it has to be checked from scratch. I imagine that he probably has his accounts, maybe his savings accounts, current account in the same bank, but based upon how he had that 16 million in the account, it may have been a different bank. Some bank may have been offering him some interest on current account, and so he put his money there. So this is the thing that I wanted to bring to your attention. The Mark Golding is not taking as much risk in investing as Andrew Holness is. He clearly has, Andrew, that is, clearly has a wealth manager that is looking for deals. And whenever he sees something that is good, they switch money, either take it out of the account, sell money, or borrow and buy the shares quickly and make a killing at the end of the year. And that's how it has been done based upon what I'm seeing here. Mark's one, on the other hand, doesn't involve a lot of risk taking, but he did indeed increase his securities in Jamaican denominated shares, bonds, and stocks by 75% in 1 year, which says something about the economy. And he is the opposition leader. When he's making this kind of investment, it is of significance to all concerned, including those persons who may be thinking of investing, that he's seen something in the economy, and perhaps you should too. Well, I don't have no money to invest yet, but I can always look on and put out a word for persons who may be thinking of investing. You have some money, go right ahead. Mark thinks it's okay, and Andrew him investing in the economy as well. So there you go. You have my analysis of the statutory declarations of both the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, and the Leader of the Opposition, Mark Golding. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I definitely have to cut it short because believe me, you see this? It's 2 hours and 56 minutes. I'm going to try and get it down to below an hour without sacrificing information that I think you might be interested in. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to subscribe if you have not done so yet. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, long as it is, as well as leave your comments. Thank you again for joining me. Until next time, walk good.